So if you could just tell us a bit about working with Slow Violence so far.
We're looking at you.
Yeah,
looking at you.
Yeah. Cool. Just the process so far of how it's been.
I've kind of sort of been involved in the project for quite a while, but have my actual kind of creative input has only happened in the last few days, really, for various reasons. So I'm a composer, sound designer, and I've been kind of basically responding to the script and writing, doing the sound design, but also actually writing some incidental bits of music as well for the show. What shall I talk about? Okay. I think with every show that I compose and sound design, I'm really kind of aware that I want that. I think it's really important that the sound and the music really have a sound, a really distinctive, clear identity, but not one that's separate to the show. I feel like all the elements of the show, the creative elements, the script, the design, the lighting, all kind of, when a show works best is when they feel like seamless and together and like they're all kind of achieving, going for the same aims. And I feel like we've really got there with this one. I feel like the show's got a really strong identity. It feels like it's got a really strong physical language and a very strong visual language as well. And hopefully what I've done as well, the sound and music that I've created, that oral kind of language sits alongside that in harmony, really. I've tried to create something that's kind of, that responds to Maria's design as well very much. I'm always really influenced by design, so the kind of the white, clean, minimal kind of lines of that design I've been interested in kind of trying to replicate musically. So I've tried to use quite distinct and sharp and clear kind of and simple layers of sound and textures of sound. So I've used quite kind of sparky, bright, almost kind of like a musical version of those white lines and shapes, if that makes sense. But then as the set disintegrates and as that is kind of broken down through the course of the piece, hopefully I've tried to achieve that with the music and sound as well, that as the piece and the story falls to pieces, so does the music and the sound, so that kind of sits with it. Was that just rambling, or did that make any sense?
So, what have you kind of most enjoyed about the process?
I've enjoyed so many things I've enjoyed about it. I've really enjoyed working with the whole team on it, a whole creative team with Laura and Harry and you know, Maria and Pete, and I think we've made something really, really good together. And I've really enjoyed working with the people on the project, but also I've really enjoyed working with the show. I've found the show to be kind of, you know, it's a show that has something to say. All good theatre should say something, should provoke something, I think, and this does, but in a very kind of accessible way. And I think I really kind of enjoy that it's a piece that I think has, you know, is going to both entertain and delight people, but I think it's also gonna, you know, make people laugh and feel like they've had a good time and watched a really entertaining piece of theatre. But I think it's also a piece that, you know, to a greater or lesser degree, people will talk about and will want to turn to the person next to them immediately afterwards and go, that was interesting. What did you think that was about? Or I got that from it, or I got this from it. And I think there's lots of different layers to it in terms of what you can take from the piece. Yeah.
Brilliant. You've pretty much answered one of the questions, which is why people should come and see it with that. So I think that's
okay. Great.
Good. No, that's really good. So just tell us a bit about the project so far, if that's all going.
So Slow Violence has been kind of in production for about a year, right through from the first initial idea where Laura had read a book called Slow Violence by an academic called Rob Nixon, who the book is called Slow Violence and the Environmentalism of the Poor, and that really inspired her to want to make a piece of theatre about climate change in a different way to how most people kind of view it.
So how was that production process gone from that initial idea to where you are now?
So Laura and Harry spent a few days at Amber Art Centre playing around with ideas and generating some material just to test out, see if the concept would work. And then we scratched that material at First Bite Festival, which basically means we just showed it as a work in progress, and were subsequently commissioned by China Plate and all of the commissioning partners to then make the full show. And we'll be presenting a piece of that at First Bite Size Festival before the show tours in autumn this year.
So what do you really love about the piece?
I love that it's funny. I love going to the theatre and it making me laugh. That's my most important thing when I go to see a show, is that at some point I'd like to laugh. And this is just kind of a laugh a minute, and so it's just really nice to be in a process where it's contemporary theatre and it's really light-hearted but also has a message.
So how do you think the chemistry between the two lead characters work?
I think they are just really... that's a difficult question. How does the chemistry between the characters work? They're both very different, so there's already a sort of tension between them and how they view the world and how they navigate problems. And I think that's where we're kind of at a standstill with climate change, in that everyone disagrees on what to do and then nothing gets done. So yeah, a sort of, art imitating life, but through a metaphor.
And what is it about the show that you think should really get people coming out to see it?
I think just that it's a comedy. I think every piece of theatre has a job to do, in that it's telling a story, and all of the stories that have been told about climate change have been very serious and very doom and gloom, and we're telling a story about climate change that isn't that, and I think that's important to have in the mix.
Anything else you'd like to touch on, do you think, in mind?
I don't know. Maria, what do you think?
I suppose the one thing we haven't hit on is when you will go from here. What's the plan going forward?
Yeah. So after this phase of the work, we will be touring the show in autumn. We'll go to our commissioning partner venues. We'll also be part of Art Admin's Season for Change, which is a season of work later on this year that's all about climate change. So yeah, we're really looking forward to connecting with all of those organisations and venues up and down the country who are really aware of the problem and want to encourage their audiences to start thinking about it and having conversations about it, etc.
Okay, brilliant. Yes.
I hope that was...
So, tell us a bit about the process so far to get to where you are with the show. How long have you been working?
Oh,
Just over a year.
oh no. So we. Oh God. Can we talk? How can we do like warm up of some kind?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's fine. So we started working on the show. We did some R&D on it last January, and then we have been in rehearsals since
The end of November.
the end of November. We've had a really exciting process, kind of rehearsing in lots of different places. We tend to work a lot with improvisation that then generates script, which is a really fun way of working.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Looking for approval there. And Yeah, and now we have a whole hour-long script, and we've brought our whole team on board, tech and design and lighting and sound, and that's really exciting.
Can confirm. I don't know what to say.
Why do we look like we're getting shot if we do the wrong answer?
Oh, right.
Cool.
That was good. Good stuff.
Fab.
So I think it was a little bit, but it's been an enjoyable process.
Yes, it's been really fun. No, it's been a really fun process. I think we went into the process saying we wanted to make work about climate change, and I think we were quite worried it was going to be depressing.
Yeah, we found comedy was our way in.
Yeah.
How to deal with it.
I think the more we started playing with material and ideas and stuff, the more sort of absurd it felt, kind of our attitudes towards climate change and the kind of lack of action that really lent itself towards this sort of farcical space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, why do you think people should go and see the show?
It's very silly
Yeah.
and messy.
Yeah. I think we were very keen to make a show that, whilst it explored climate change and issues around it, was also just really entertaining and just a really good night out at the theatre, because I think that's important.
Yes.
And hopefully it's a show that will generate conversations and something else wise, Harry.
Wise.
Yeah, I think it's a really, theatre for me is a really great space to have these conversations and tell these stories and explore these issues that will hopefully generate conversations that will go on past coming to see the show, I would say.
We always say it's a show not about climate change, but about people's attitudes towards climate change, which is where the comedy is.
Yes. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. Anything else you'd like to get across, do you think?
Do you need like a little summary of it or anything? No? No? Cool.
Do you want us to do some cartwheels or something?
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you?
Yeah.
Can you do a cartwheel, Laura?
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Hey!
That doesn't feature in the show. Yeah.
What else do you want? Is any of that useful?
Is that any of that useful? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm never sure with these things.
Yeah.
Fab.
I kind of never want to see it.
Great.
I think we'll bring you back at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
when
fine,
we've
yeah.
relaxed
We'll
a
have
bit.
a bit.
Ready to go?
So I'm playing Claire, she's a bit of a job's worth, isn't she? In the Happy Holidays office. She has worked there for quite a while and she's got quite comfortable in the space, even though things are sort of falling apart around her. Yeah. She's quite happy to kind of keep ploughing on and optimistically assuming everything will sort itself out.
And I'm playing Peter, who's just started the new job, and he's a little bit of Claire's opposite. He's quite pessimistic about all the problems in the office and doesn't really understand why nothing's being done about them. And the contrast between the two leads to comedic outcomes.
So, how important is that kind of conflict between the two characters?
I think it's really important. I think they both are quite flawed in their characters and are sort of unable to recognise their own flaws.
They're both hypocrites in
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah, Claire's kind of got this unstoppable optimism, whereas Peter has a kind of, I don't know, I guess a sense of being right, even though, and not recognising his own flaws. Recognising his own flaws.
I think Peter's so pessimistic about things that it leads him to be words. I think Peter's quite pessimistic about everything to the point where he is incapable of fixing anything. He just points out things that are wrong.
Yeah, and I think in the kind of discussion of climate change, I think we were talking about both characters are kind of almost just stuck, unable to kind of do anything because of their sort of bizarre world outlooks, and neither of them kind of fully see or act on the problem in a productive, like useful way.
Yeah.
But we're kind of hoping there's like a space between them of the extremes where there's potential hope, I guess.
Have we got a question?
Yeah,
Or ask me
so-
something.
So, how have you found the process of getting the piece to where it's at now?
It's been, I think, relatively quick turnaround. It's been a year to this month that we started Slow Violence. So I think we've worked really hard to get it to this point. I'm really proud of where it is now. It's not been without its challenges, but everything we do is. But also making eco work, you have to think 10 steps ahead, because it really matters how things travel as well as what they are in each space. So I'm getting used to working in that way now, and we all are. So that's been a really good progression from our first show.
So, what have you really enjoyed about the project?
I've enjoyed working with Laura and Raffia again, and also collaborating with creatives, definitely like outside creatives, because we came from a really small knit group of friends in Derby really, and now we've expanded to working with creatives from different parts of the country. So that's made the piece, it feels much more moved on and progressive, and what's the word? It's the next level for us, I think. Yeah, that's been my favourite thing.
So, how was that kind of collaborative process working with the artists?
So that's been. So we had our lighting designer and sound designer come into rehearsals once we had sort of been making it. Because technically this sharing today in Birmingham is our 5th week of including rehearsal. So it's been very quick getting it into produced life, but it's been in thinking and in rehearsing for a year. But this 5-week block has been when we've brought creatives in. So that's been intense, but in a good creative way, because it's more useful for them to see it when it's more moved on and developed. Yeah.
So, that's interesting what you said about the kind of being eco-aware. Tell us a bit more about how you brought that into the process.
So that was learning from our first show, the Bee Project, and we only used stuff for set that can be recycled or reused. So we used soil in the Bee Project, and in this project the characters create their own carbon footprint, which is made of other people's wood burning, like when you have a wood burning fire, the ash that creates. So I wanted to use a waste product to turn into something useful before it becomes a waste product again. So it's like reusing a waste product which would have just been thrown away before. And then when it is thrown away, it's natural. It's charcoal and ash, so it's not medical charcoal that I mix it with, so it goes into like a paste, so it's safe to then dispose of. Yeah, and it's other things like being eco-aware, like cutting the floor so it fits in a smaller van, and all co-sharing and sharing lifts, and all of that about the touring of it. I wanted to make it really compact, and printing all our flyers on with eco-friendly printers that use soy ink rather than water-based inks, cleaning the floor with eco-friendly products rather than bleach, and using a live plant, like trying as much as possible to, in that really white barren space that they've created, all of the natural elements are the messy bits, but all of them are either recycled or reused from somewhere, and all the costumes are charity shops.
Excellent. And finally, I guess, why do you think people should come to the show?
I think it's very current now. It's
it's the right time for this to be going out. I think we're in a really worrying time in terms of the environmental impact of everyone and the climate crisis. So I think it's very relevant. We've been making climate work for the last few years, but it feels like the right time for this particular one to go out. And also it's funny. It's not... a lot of the things you see about climate change at the moment are quite depressing, and there's, you know, a lot of depressing stuff going out, but it's a light-hearted, but the metaphor is definitely there. So it's an enjoyable... I think anyone can enjoy it, really. Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's really good. Camera rolling. So yeah, if you could tell us what you're on the project. So I'm the lighting designer. Basically, look at what Maria's done with her set and read through the script, get the feel for the show, and sort of light it in a way that sort of enhances the narrative and the message of the show. Just basically making sure that we can see what's going on out there, but also making it a bit more stylised as well, and hopefully sending a message with my design as well as the show that complements everything else. What have you enjoyed about working with the company? Everything. They're great. They're really lovely, really supportive company, which is nice. I think their ideas and their energy is really fantastic. What they want to do with the show, the message they want to send with the show is really important, I think. And they've just been really great to work with, really collaborative and quite fun, and nice people, really. And what have you kind of most enjoyed about the process so far? I've quite enjoyed how much freedom I've had to create within my field. It has been collaborative, but there's been a lot of trust in me to sort of just get on and do it. So it's been nice as a designer being in the room with the process and how it's forming, and sort of having a say in that as well, and just saying, oh, maybe we can do this, and getting feedback from Laura and Harry as well. And just generally, I think I've really just liked how collaborative it is, and how we're all sort of bouncing ideas off each other all the time. It's been really different, I think. And why do you think people should come and see the show? Because it's great. It's really funny. It's got a really serious message that affects all of us. There's not one person on this planet that can say, oh, that doesn't affect me. Like, it's going to affect us all. It's just funny and fun, and not as serious as the subject matter may sound, and because they deserve a fantastic audience, really.